Welcome back. So, on this episode of the Home Buying Guide, we're going to talk about emergency funds. And building an emergency fund is very important. It's already important in your finances as a whole, but especially when you want to purchase a home. Building an emergency fund is very important because you need to save up money to go through the home buying process. So the home buying process itself is not free. There's closing costs, down payment, and then there's other fees that you have to pay along the way. You have prepays, taxes, home insurance. Like I could name all the different expenses that come along with the home buying process. In my book, I go through each expense, detail them. I even have a home buying terms you should know section. Okay. So, like I say, when I finish this book, I'm trying to make sure I include everything that I wish I knew before I purchased my first property when I was 27. So every time I keep going through it to read it, and before I send it to the editor, I keep adding something else. So that's my fault because I'm really excited because I wish a resource like this existed before I purchased my first home. Oh my God. It would have been a lifesaver. Let's just say that. So when you're going through the home buying process, you will be told to come up with a down payment. And that is basically based off the amount of home that you're purchasing. So you'll have a down payment that you'll need to put down to start the loan, and it'll be based off your purchase price. It'll usually be a percentage of your purchase price. Now, what that percentage is will be based on what type of home loan you get. You can get a conventional loan, you can get an FHA loan. Again, these are things that we talk about. So in the month of January in the Money Master Academy, we focused on home buying. So I brought in a real estate attorney. I brought in a loan officer who's been in the game probably over 20 years. And then I did a credit info session to educate you on what things are important to repair before you go into home ownership. Because a lot of times you see online and they tell you, oh, well, you can just do this, dispute it, and it get it off of your credit, which it might remove it from your credit based on whatever technicality. But it's important for you to know that loan officers have other ways to get your information, especially if it's a public record. It doesn't matter if it's on your credit report or not. They have other things. They check, they cross their T's and dot their I's. Let's just say that. So I always recommend that you work to build up an emergency fund. And when you purchase a home, you'll need a larger emergency fund because you have to have money to purchase the home and then live afterwards. So I wrote notes too. I'm not going to lie. I wrote notes to make sure that I brought all the information I wanted to in this video. So throughout many videos, you'll see everybody talk about, oh, pay yourself first, pay yourself first, pay yourself first. And a lot of people say, okay, well, everybody's already always saying that. And what does that really mean? Paying yourself first means that once you get paid, you set aside a certain percentage of money to yourself. This can go to retirement savings. This can go to emergency fund. This can go in your investment fund. This can go in your travel fund. There's so many different ways to pay yourself first. And that's truly your seed money to wealth. Because if anything, you want to start a business, if you want to start investing, you're going to need money. You ever heard the expression, you need money to make money? Well, you starting to pay yourself first and put that money to the side is the beginning of that process. And then when you want to start a business, you have a little fund that you can go to start that business. Because some businesses can be started with as little as $500. Let's be real. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Okay. So this is one of the reasons I made sure that the book went into detail to explain all the different fees that go along with the home buying process. I feel like that really drives home the concept of why I'm yelling, bring an emergency fund and build an emergency fund. And it also educates you on a lot of parts because people have no idea all of the different fees that go along with the home buying process. You got to get an appraisal, a home inspection, and you might get an inspection more than a home inspection. You might need a termite inspection. You might need a lead inspection. You might need a radon inspection. So you see, there are different types of inspections that you might need based on where your home is located, how old your home is, what else has been identified in the market that you're in. So your house will be more likely to have that problem. All of those things play a factor. And if you have to get those inspections, well, who do you think is financially responsible to pay for them? The bank orders the appraisal, but you will be the one who will be financially responsible for the appraisal. So sis, build them coins. I'm trying to tell you, build them coins up so you can be ready for the home buying process. Okay, so next, I I want to tell you some reasons why. So for one thing, you want to note that as a homeowner, you are your landlord. So remember when you rented an apartment, if you had something that broke or something that needed to be fixed, you could just make a phone call. And some landlords are really good about coming promptly. Some landlords are not so good. They don't come so fast. But when you own a home, you are the landlord. So you're not able to call somebody else to have them make the repair for you. You have to pay for it to be repaired. You have to call the company. You have to work to make sure that they come out, they inspect it, which they normally they normally charge you a consultation fee, and then they'll charge you for the repair if a repair is needed. So you will definitely possibly become handy. You might become a lot more handy once you purchase a home, because it just genuinely will save you money. And some things you might be able to fix yourself and not call somebody to get them fixed. Another thing, of course, is it gives you peace of mind. If you do have a small expense like that, it won't stress you out and it won't break you, because you have money sitting to the side prepared for emergencies just like this. So just say, for example, if your pipe starts leaking and you've already paid all of your bills, so majority of your check is gone, what are you going to do? If you have a leak in your house causing water damage and you don't have the money to pay for the repair, do you know how bad that's going to stress you out? So having an emergency fund also gives you peace of mind. We don't really realize how much your financial wealth affects your mental health. And it truly does. Have you ever thought about when you had an expense that you just didn't have a clue how you ever was going to pay it, and you found yourself up at night wondering, trying to figure out how you're going to do it, and and it's breaking your sleep, all of the things like that. So this is what you want to beware of, and this is what you want to avoid if at all possible. Also, you'll be prepared for emergencies. They might still frustrate you, you might still be upset about them, but you'll know you can afford them. So it's one thing to have an emergency that you're not prepared for, but it's another thing to be prepared for it. It irks you, but it's in a different way, because you know that you can take care of it and you can handle it. Okay. So that's something you want to think about. Another part of it is, if it comes time that you want to move or relocate, it's harder to sell a home than it is to move from an apartment. When you decide you want to leave an apartment, usually you notify the landlord. You can time your move or relocation along the time that's close to the end of your lease. Well, for you to leave that house, you have to sell it or rent it out. Either way, you're going to have to spend some money. If you're going to rent it out, you're going to have to get it tenant ready. If you're going to sell it, you're going to have to sell it. And a seller has costs associated with selling their home. For example, I don't know if you know this, but the real estate agent for the buyer and the seller is paid for by the seller. So even if you are selling the home, yes, you'll get money later, but you get money after you've already paid money. So again, there's that same principle. You're needing money to make money. So you want to have an emergency fund. You don't want to be house poor, where you have a house, but you have nothing else. And if anything happens in that house, it's going to completely wreck your whole life. Okay. So this is what I want to help you avoid. So just to give you a little bit about my journey, I am a personal finance educator, but I'm also a real estate investor. So I purchased my first home when I was 27, which of course, give me a round of applause, but I didn't know what I was doing. I did not know. I had no clue. I was proud of myself, and I'm very happy with what I did. And I wouldn't have the knowledge I have now. It definitely helped me, know what I do today. But I did not know a lot. I did not know a lot. And this is one of the resources I wish was available when I purchased my first home. I had my daughter, single parent, trying to do the right thing and build a stable house and home for her to be able to come to regularly. And I just wasn't prepared. Very shortly after I closed on my home, I injured my ankle. I had no savings. I put myself in a very rough situation. And, I put it in the book, I guess you could say taking a vulnerable moment, and telling people the real of my story. But here I am today. I'm a real estate investor. I own one property. I'm actually working on purchasing a second property this year. So things change, but it took a lot of knowledge and a lot of learning, a lot of researching, a lot of training, a lot of shadowing other real estate investors. So I'm trying to bring all of that knowledge to you to help you kind of avoid some of the mistakes I made and just help you be a better homeowner. And one of the things that starts with is having an emergency fund. So one thing I highly recommend is that you look for down payment assistance programs. This can be as easy as doing a Google search and putting in like down payment assistance in whatever town you're in, down payment assistance, whatever county you're in, whatever state you're in. Try all of them and then try down payment assistance by itself. This is important because it'll show you different options that you have, and you might find out resources you didn't know. This does not mean that because you get down payment assistance program that you don't save any money. You still need to save money, but this might allow you to keep a lot more of your money in your pocket so you can be better prepared for repairs, replacements, or emergencies. Okay. I'm just saying. So one of the things that I've always found to be something that helps you if you're considering, well, how do I get started with an emergency fund? You're wondering, how do I make this happen? This seems like a lot of money. How much should I save for an emergency fund? I highly recommend you save about 6% of your purchase price for your emergency fund. And why do I say this? Because if you're going to get an FHA loan, you might need a lower amount of savings, but you're also going to have closing costs and other things that you have to pay. So I would suggest you save that much for your home and then still have your emergency fund on the side. So you want to start this process as soon as possible while you're learning, while you're educating yourself. Another question I get all the time is, should I pay off debt at the same time while I'm doing savings, or should I pay off my debt, then start saving? I personally recommend you do both, and I'm going to explain why. Again, I'll use a repair situation. If you're in the process of paying off debt and eliminating debt, and you're making progress and you're starting to feel good about your journey, you're getting pumped up, you're getting motivated, and you feel like you're really making it somewhere, but you were only focusing on debt repayment. So now you have a tire that goes flat, or you have a pipe that's leaking, like I suggested earlier. Okay, what do you have to do now? Well, you weren't saving any money. So now you're going to have to take those same credit cards that you previously paid down, that you were just celebrating that you paid down. Now you have to take that same credit card and use it to charge to take care of this unexpected expense. So what is that going to do? It's going to push you backwards in your journey, for one. For two, it's going to discourage you. It's going to feel a little bad to see that balance go back up after you've been working so hard to get it down. So this is one of the reasons I highly recommend doing both at one time. If you feel overwhelmed by creating an emergency fund, start off small. Make a $500 goal. After you meet that $500 goal, make an $1,000 goal. After you meet 1,000, you get the point. Make it in smaller increments so that, one, it gives you multiple wins so that you can really kind of motivate yourself. And then two, it slowly will build up to what you need it to be. And then you'll continue to raise it as you continue to build more money. So I'm not going to keep you long. Again, I have trainings, and I'm trying to create the book to just go more in depth, because having a short video, it doesn't really break down everything that you need to know. But I had to bring some resources for my people so you can kind of gather and start to get an idea of what this home buying process really looks like. I'm not one to force home ownership on anybody. You have to choose the best decision that's best for you, but I want that decision to be a financially educated decision. So I'll see you on the next video.